On our 5th wedding anniversary, William's beautiful secretary suddenly showed up at the door. Impregnant. You should step aside. Looking at her confident and smug face, I suddenly froze. At 15, William and I met. At 18, we fell in love. At 20, we rebelled against our parents to be together. At 24, we got married. At 26, I gave birth to the daughter he had always dreamed of. Now, I've gotten through everything. At 28, he cheated on me. When the knock came at the door, I had just set the hot soup on the table. The heat on my fingertips hadn't faded yet. I instinctively touched my earlobe as I opened the door. Outside the door, however, was a familiar face. The girl before me was young and pretty, looking arrogant and entitled. She knocked on the door and smiled at me. "Can I come in and talk?" My heart missed a beat. I recognized her. She was the beautiful secretary William hired that year. At the time, I had just given birth to my daughter, but the company was on the rise and there were lots of social engagements. He was afraid I'd be too tired, and people sent word to persuade me, saying that since the missus didn't have time to accompany him, President William needed a pretty, capable assistant to keep up appearances. My thoughts drifted away. Back then, William held me, lightly pecking my lips. He lovingly stroked my lower abdomen, which hadn't yet slimmed down, and planted another reverent kiss. "Evelyn, we've been together for so many years. Don't you know where my heart is?" He acted spoiled, biting my lips and grinding against them. "Don't you believe me yet?" So I believed him. Later, during our daughter's full-month celebration, that beautiful secretary he often praised for her competence came to deliver a gift. As people came and went at the banquet, the two met, and she very naturally smoothed out the wrinkles on William's shirt. I suddenly felt uneasy. The crowd dispersed, and I stubbornly held onto William's hand, telling him to replace the secretary. He replaced her immediately, but at this moment, the girl put down her expensive handbag, sweeping a somewhat mocking glance over the table full of delicacies. "Impregnant. You should step aside." Turns out he replaced her at the company, but didn't replace her in bed. Sophia casually brushed the hair by her ear, and only after her words landed did I look down. The girl in front of me had a slightly bulging belly, her face radiating the glow of motherhood. I withdrew the cup I had just poured water into for her, my movement stalling, yet my tone remained calm. "Did William send you?" She raised her chin. "Otherwise, do you think I'd be able to find my way to your home?" At that time, the company had appeared out of nowhere, offending quite a few people. William protected me very well. He was always tight-lipped about the whereabouts of my daughter and me, and our home address was something no one knew. Come to think of it, even if it wasn't William who called her over, he's not exactly innocent. In the 10th year of our love, on the day of our 5th wedding anniversary, I finally realized, my husband, seems like he really cheated. As she waited expectantly for me to speak, I smiled for some reason. "Okay." Sophia froze at that. She shoved me in a panic, trying to turn and leave, but bumped into the dining table. The hot soup sitting on the edge of the table was knocked over. She dodged fast, but half the liquid splashed onto me. The door was slammed shut. I crouched down on the floor bit by bit, and my phone screen lit up. A message from 5 minutes ago. Something urgent came up. "I'll be back later. Eat first if you're hungry." My hand remained in the position of holding the phone, but I suddenly remembered Sophia's smug and assured look. "Do you believe it? He won't be coming back tonight. I know where he'll be." I hailed a taxi and headed straight for the clubhouse, where I often used to accompany him for business engagements. When I pushed open the door to the Chang'an Club, the attendant at the entrance bowed and gestured the way with an open hand. "Mr. William is this way." It's the same old room. The golden table was packed tight with liquor bottles, and a man and woman were making out in the corner by the door. I looked closely, and it wasn't William. Inside the room, a few men were clinking glasses, and a girl was singing, likely the warm-up act. She wasn't dressed gaudily. She wore high-waisted tight pants, and her silk shirt had flowing wide sleeves. Just then, the spotlight shifted towards the top of the girl's head, a beam of light illuminating her youthful face. The girl wore small diamond earrings, and the fine, scattered light shone on her snow-white skin. William put down his glass and beckoned to her. She went straight to William's side. Bending over, her chest exposing a large expanse of scenery. Under her shirt, black lace wrapped around snow-white skin, with a sharp ravine in the middle. It was very eye-catching. Yet she poured a glass of Jean Fong without a care, handing it over coquettishly. The girl's fingers unconsciously brushed past William's thin lips, and I watched William open his mouth to bite down on that pale whiteness. I stood at the door of the private room, feeling like I was in an ice cellar. If what Sophia said today only made me doubt his fidelity, then now, the scene before my eyes is like a slap clean across my face. The people in the room are chatting. William's phone screen lit up. From a distance, I could make out a photo of me and my daughter. That girl, acting jealous, drew circles on William's chest with her finger. Sister-in-law is really pretty. William blew out a smoke ring and spoke indifferently. She is beautiful, but once you marry her, it's nothing special. The traitor's internal organs seemed to start shattering. It was nothing special. William said marrying me was nothing special. I instinctively stepped back, slamming the door that was already ajar. But I didn't realize I'd startled the person inside. William heard the noise at the door. He subconsciously thought it was Sophia coming to throw a tantrum, and couldn't be bothered to coax her. So he hurried home after the social engagement ended. She's different from those women out there who never stop making a scene. His wife had always been gentle and wouldn't cause him any trouble. She took excellent care of their daughter and the home. She even took his parents' health to heart, taking the two elders to visit famous doctors several times a month to look after their well-being. After all, having been together for so many years, they were used to each other's temperaments, so there was no need for any more adjustment. He had always felt that he was more relaxed at home. As the car turned the corner, William saw a couple with graying hair walking out of a flower shop. The old grandpa held a small bunch of roses in his hand and handed them to his beloved before him as if offering a treasure. The old grandma grinned from ear to ear, complaining about the waste of money while cradling the flowers in her hands and looking at them over and over again. William suddenly pulled the car over to the side, but the flower shop's roller shutter had come down. Evelyn's smiling face when she first received the roses he gave her suddenly flashed before his eyes, and only then did he realize it belatedly. It seemed like it had been a long time since he gave flowers to his wife after getting married. William trotted to catch up and explained his intention to the old couple ahead. The grandma smiled, kept one stem, and handed the rest to him. "Wishing you and your beloved 100 years of love, and that you grow old together." He smiled and said thanks, placing the roses on the passenger seat. But when he got home and pushed open the door, he found the usually cozy home empty. Evelyn cooked a whole table of his favorite dishes for him, but they had all gone cold. The soup on the corner of the table had spilled all over the floor along with porcelain shards, and there were faint traces of blood. A huge sense of unease suddenly welled up in William's heart. He could only clutch his chest and dial Evelyn's number. I was hiding under the eaves from the rain, but icy raindrops still splashed in, wetting my hair. My phone battery turned red, and I made a call to tell my mother to take good care of my daughter. I've rarely sent my daughter back to her grandma's place these past few years. Today was only because of our wedding anniversary. When William gave me a gift the other day, he said it's been a long time since we had some alone time. I thought about it and realized I have been busy lately, so I handled everything in advance and sent our daughter back. But I never expected that I'd be the one to forget. That convenience store I usually go to seems to have closed down. When the lights went out, I finally rubbed my numb legs. I've walked this road many times. When I was 19, William and I were blocked at every turn. The homeroom teacher's warnings, the classmates' doubts, the parents' threats. We gritted our teeth and made it through it all. Back then, William had bad grades. The teacher nailed him to the pillar of shame to make a self-criticism in front of the whole school. But he tugged at his school uniform collar, smiling as he locked eyes with me down below. Love can withstand any hardship. Nothing can tear us apart. Later, he pulled all-nighters studying just to be my desk mate. And finally, my name and William's were listed side by side at the top of the grade rankings. Back then, he held me and said he couldn't live without me for the rest of his life. But just a few short years later, when I was mentioned, he looked completely indifferent. It's just whatever even if you marry her home. The rain got heavier and heavier, already rising past my ankles. But I don't want to wait anymore. Let's end it here. I walked along that street I'd walked with him countless times, heading in the other direction. The water in the low-lying areas was almost up to my knees. The familiar sensation suddenly reminded me of our honeymoon trip to the beach. There were hardly any staff on the beach abroad. The curling waves swept me up, and I drifted far away. William didn't notice that the safety rope tied to me had snapped. By the time he realized it, I was already out of sight. He had clearly already swum back to safety himself, yet he risked danger again to pull me back. When we got back to shore, William's whole body went limp, but he smiled at me, saying he was lucky he hadn't lost me. Back then, I really thought that since we'd been through life and death together, nothing could ever tear us apart again. But today, for years later, he cheated. As I stumbled along, I realized the high heels I was wearing just to match my dress had gotten stuck in the drainage hole of a manhole cover. My ankle twisted in the pouring rain, and I fell hard to the ground. For a moment, I couldn't tell if it was tears or rain on my face. When I was crying so hard I could barely breathe, a handkerchief suddenly appeared in front of me. A black umbrella stopped above my head, and a gentle, humble male voice came from above. "Remember me?" Seeing my dazed expression and lack of response, Thomas reached out and wiped the rain and tears from my face. "Pardon me." A cashmere coat carrying a burning warmth was draped over me, and the collar was gathered close. "The rain and wind are heavy. Let me give you a ride." At this moment, the phone started vibrating incessantly. I tapped to answer with a blank expression. On the other end was William, asking urgently, "Where are you hurt? Did you go to the hospital? I'll come pick you up." I took a deep breath and suddenly interrupted. "William, let's get a divorce." There was a momentary pause on the other end. Then the tone suddenly became urgent. "I didn't mean to come home late today. Evelyn, I even bought you flowers. Stop making a scene. Okay, we're not divorcing." My grip on the phone suddenly loosened. The phone turned off automatically, and there was no more sound from the other end. "Let's end it here." Thomas suddenly spoke, bringing me back to my senses. "Let me take you home. I just happened to visit Annie." I turned around, trying hard to hold back my tears. "Sorry to trouble you." The man in the car remained silent, and only after a long while did he slowly stop. The heating was on full blast, but I still felt cold from head to toe. He stopped the car, suddenly reaching for my forehead in a panic. I just felt everything go black before my eyes, and the world turned blurry. "Evelyn, Evelyn, wake up." After the call was hung up, William pinched the bridge of his nose and once again hung up on the calls from Sophia that were bombarding him nonstop. He had never been this scared before. Evelyn had always been virtuous and proper, and had never done anything like running away from home. So when he heard Evelyn bring up divorce in a flat tone, his heart felt like it was fiercely clutched by a sharp claw. How could she bear to? From the age of 15 until now, she had never spoken to him with such indifference. It was probably because he had spent too much time on Sophia lately and neglected her feelings. But it was fine. After all, they had over 10 years of history. And besides, they had a cute daughter. He clutched the rain-soaked rose tightly, remaining silent. Amidst the mess all over the ground, William suddenly smelled a pungent perfume scent. Evelyn never wore perfume. William suddenly stood up and looked around, only then spotting a tiny ear stud. The pink diamond set in the ear stud was brought back from an auction by his assistant, and he gave it to Sophia. His pupils dilated instantly, and his hand holding the phone began to tremble. But soon, his gaze fell on the smiling photo of the family of 3, and his tense fingers relaxed. "It won't happen. Evelyn will come back. It was just playing around. Evelyn will be sensible. Divorce is probably just an excuse to get him to return to the family. And he buys it. In the days to come, he would make it up to her properly, be a good husband to Evelyn, and be a good father to his daughter." When I opened my eyes again, I saw my daughter's red eyes. Seeing me wake up, she carefully reached out and hugged my arm. "Mommy, are you tired? Harper won't make Mommy angry anymore. Mommy, don't be tired." Thomas pushed the ward door open and walked in, holding an old-fashioned tin lunchbox in his hand. "Auntie watched over you all night. I saw she didn't look too good, so I told her to go back and rest first." I hurriedly spoke up to thank him, but saw Thomas purse his lips and smile at me. "It's okay. Xiaoyan. The doctor said you're fine now, too. Let me take you and Harper home." I held Harper's hand and politely declined. Although Thomas was a bit worried, he still hailed a taxi for us. Didn't Mommy go on a date with Daddy? Where's Daddy? I didn't know how to answer for a moment and stood there in a daze. Harper reached out a finger to unlock the front door, then ran data over to the frozen surveillance monitor, pointing at the people on the screen and asking me, "Mommy, who is this auntie? Why is she with Daddy?" I leaned in closer. Sophia was clinging to William coquettishly. William had a grim look on his face, but didn't push her away. So, they had actually brought this mess into our home. My eyes stung, and my vision suddenly blurred. Even though I knew the truth yesterday, seeing it with my own eyes still hurt, just like knowing a wound will heal sooner or later. But the dull pain when it repeatedly tears open is still engraved in the memory. As Harper clumsily wiped away my tears, she hugged me again, and carefully took a piece of candy out of her pocket. "Mommy, don't cry. Mommy, eat candy." The white rabbit milk candy was already slightly sticky, but she handed it to me like a treasure, her eyes sparkling, looking exactly like William's sly, fox-like look when he kissed me for the first time that year. Letting Harper feed me the candy, I suddenly felt very, very tired. After thinking it over again and again, I spoke up. "Mommy wants to separate from Daddy. Does Harper want to be with Mommy?" Harper buried her head in my arms, her voice sounding listless. "Daddy has this auntie to keep him company. Harper wants to stay with Mommy." Right then, I got a call from Sophia, and casually hit record. Her tone had become a bit more domineering. She was already given me the house keys. "MS. Lynn, try to take all your stuff away as fast as possible. Don't be an eyesore in the house. William told you to come find me, didn't he?" Seeing that my tone remained calm, Sophia actually got a bit anxious and provoked me viciously, seemingly wanting to make me lose my cool. "Of course. He's long since lost interest in a hag like you." I pinched the bridge of my nose and held Harper's hand a bit tighter. "So you're saying William not only tacitly approved of your behavior, but also required you to come find me and tell me the truth about his cheating? Is that it?" As if her tail had been stepped on, Sophia's voice became shrill. "The one who isn't loved is the mistress. Evelyn, you'd better get the hell out of my house right now." I lifted my eyes. The stinging in my eye socket seemed to disappear completely. Over a decade of affection crumbled in an instant. After a long while, I felt a small hand cover my eyes. Harper's voice was also choked with sobs. "Mommy, don't cry." I crouched down to be at eye level with her tiny self and asked her seriously, "If Daddy and Mommy separate, will Harper feel unhappy?" Harper shook her head. Harper has always been precocious. She stepped forward to hug my neck tightly, burying her little face in the crook of my neck. "Grandma said a man can only be with the one woman he loves most. But Harper saw Daddy with another auntie." She blinked her eyes innocently. "That isn't right. So if Daddy made a mistake, will Mommy forgive him?" I touched her little pigtail and asked her respectfully, "Does Harper hope Mommy and Daddy will stay together forever?" She scrunched up her little brows and thought for a long time before shaking her head firmly at me. "Harper wants Mommy to be happy. Daddy doesn't love Mommy anymore. But Harper loves Mommy. It seems 10 years of feelings couldn't withstand a single blow. But I have Harper." Watching Sophia bombard me with photos and videos of her and William together, I suddenly seemed to go numb. After saving all the evidence, I drafted the divorce agreement, seeming to breathe a sigh of relief. I lowered my head and watched the servants move the last bag of luggage onto the truck. I held Harper's hand and left, never turning back to look even once. "Let's leave it at this, William. The oath you swore that year, I will make it come true. The one who betrays a true heart shall be pierced by 10,000 arrows." William. Finding Evelyn was not a difficult task. After all, our daughter is still studying here. No matter how willful Evelyn is, she wouldn't disregard her daughter's future. William pinched his temples wearily as he prepared to go to the hospital to pick her up. He looked up and saw his wrinkled shirt collar in the mirror. Evelyn used to take care of all this. She had only been away for a day, yet he looked so much more haggard. The door suddenly rang. William pulled his coat together, covering the wrinkled shirt underneath. But he discovered it was actually Sophia. Impatience instantly flashed across his face, and his tone turned grim. "Why are you here?" Seeing the usually gentle William expressionless, Sophia suddenly felt a bit creeped out. Yet she still stepped forward and hugged his arm coquettishly. Can't I come? I'll be moving in sooner or later anyway. William suddenly remembered that pink diamond stud, and his gaze instantly turned sharp. You went looking for Evelyn. His tone was certain. Sophia suddenly panicked, wondering where she had given herself away. Men of status usually couldn't stand being forced like this, let alone the fact that William still had Evelyn in his heart. Knowing she was in the wrong, Sophia hurriedly changed the subject and handed the document she had just signed to William. Here, the courier just rushed this over. I saw no one at the door, so I signed for it for you. William looked at Sophia's outstretched hand, and suddenly a huge sense of unease welled up in his heart. It was just like hearing Evelyn ask him for a divorce last night. He was practically trembling as he tore open the document bag, and the huge words inside instantly fell into his sight. It was a divorce agreement. Sophia glanced from the side, unable to stop snickering inwardly. But on her face, she sensibly tugged at William's forearm. Shoo, I happen to have good news to tell you too. William ignored her completely, turning to walk out, but then heard Sophia's coquettish voice. I'm pregnant. I checked. You're gonna have a son to carry on your family line. William stopped in his tracks, not moving for quite a while. Actually, the physical issue isn't that big. I've achieved financial freedom these past few years, run to quite a few hospitals, big and small, and have already patched up most of the deficit. It was just getting caught in the rain and being overcome with agitation. That's why I suddenly fainted. It's my heart that hurts, even though I know he's wrong. It's a 10-year relationship after all. It's just like the pain before digging out rotting flesh. You have to get used to it. But I didn't expect that before I was even fully discharged, William would come make a scene right in my face. The moment he saw me, he gripped my hand tightly and tried to drag me out. Evelyn, stop making a fuss. Come home with me. I shook him off hard and slapped him across the face. My tone was indifferent and calm. Harper is just in the restroom and we'll be back right away. Don't make a scene in front of the child. William softened his tone. Evelyn, I won't do that anymore. If you're not happy, I won't go to social engagements anymore. And now I don't need to. I looked up and saw that William's suit jacket was buttoned wrong by one. He was always so put together, never losing his composure like this. The faint scent of perfume on the suit left me speechless. After a long while, I blinked my sore eyes. Let's get a divorce. Let's keep it dignified. William pinched the bridge of his nose, his face full of disapproval. You know about all my money, and all the assets are under your name too. What exactly are you making a fuss about? No one is going to threaten your position. Evelyn, what are you afraid of? I didn't answer, seeing that I didn't speak as resolutely as before. His tone suddenly softened. Even if it's just for Harper, to give the child a complete home. Okay. I shook my head. You know what I want. William, you don't remember the vows you made, but I remember. I lowered my head and gathered the lab slips and receipts in my hand, wondering when to take the money over to Thomas. But William spoke again, this time with a bit more anger and helplessness. You women just have heads full of love and romance. All the bosses around are like this. And I haven't heard of any of their wives making a scene about divorce every day. Men are just putting on a show when they're out. Isn't that normal? I paused my steps. I sent the agreement over. Sign it as soon as possible. Then he picked up Harper and walked out. Harper saw William still in the hospital room, so she cupped her hands like a little trumpet. Daddy has someone to keep him company. Harper will keep mommy company. William sat in the car and caught a glimpse of the underwear Sophia had left in the crevice of the passenger seat. He picked it up with a look of disgust and threw it out. Then he slammed the steering wheel hard. Honestly, of all the possibilities he had imagined, the one he hadn't considered was that Evelyn wouldn't go home with him. He didn't know what she was making a fuss about. All the accounts will be delivered to her on time every month. She doesn't have to do anything. And the shares will guarantee she never has to worry about food or clothing. He didn't understand. Isn't the life of a rich wife good? William pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm not a kid anymore. Is love that important? The next time I saw William was when the divorce cooling-off period was about to end. I had taken the initiative to send him a WeChat. The documents are all in the old house. And besides these, we also need to talk about the division of property. He still hasn't signed the agreement. But I didn't want to wait any longer. With a face full of guilt, William picked up Harper and me. and drove us himself toward our old home in the countryside. This road has turned into a concrete one, but back when it was a muddy dirt path, William and I walked it countless times. We walked it when he picked me up to go to school, and we walked it when he sneaked out to date me despite being threatened by his parents. Later on, when both our parents finally relented and came to propose, we also walked over here hand in hand. I still remember clearly even now, on our wedding day, when he came to pick me up, bringing a crowd of friends and family, walking proudly along this road to my house, like a victorious general. Fiery red firecracker scraps and colorful confetti were scattered all over the ground, decorating this road like a fairy tale. I don't think I'll ever forget it. It will always stay in my memory. But that was all there was to it. Love is a verb, not an adjective. Actions come to an end, but those images will be preserved in memory forever. Harper saw that William and I were both gazing at the old building, and suddenly asked me, "Mommy, is this Harper's old home?" I squatted down to pick up my daughter, who was clearly exhausted but still insisted on walking on her own, and nodded. Although Harper hadn't arrived yet back then, this is also Harper's home, probably touched by the scene. William's mood sank, seeing his face on the verge of tears. My memories of the old house suddenly shifted to something else. I recalled a time before when William got drunk at a social gathering and called me to pick him up. When I rushed there, the young girl seeing him out was flashing beneath her short skirt. He was slumped all over the coquettish girl, and his drooping hand accidentally brushed against her chest. Right exactly when I saw it. When William was puking his guts out, I brought it up, telling him to watch his limits in the future and not cross the line. It's just for show, Evelyn. I won't touch them. I'd even find it dirty. Back then, he hadn't seen much of the world. After coming home at night, he would reach out to gently rub my earlobe, planting a reverent kiss, pulling my hand to rest on a certain spot. It only likes you. Young love can never be eternal. I snapped back to reality. Turns out neither cheating nor rotting happens in an instant. The clues were slowly laid out for me long ago. It's just that I didn't take them seriously. I think I know what you want, Evelyn. As memories flooded back, my fingers subconsciously tightened, and my slender fingertips turned pale. He tugged irritably at his tie, the Wynard suit looking even more aggressive under the incandescent light. It really isn't like the old days. William's skin was still so fair, just like when he was young. It's just that time has passed, and now fine wrinkles have appeared at the corners of the eyes. I don't want to listen anymore. Holding Harper, I walked forward quickly for a few steps and stopped in front of the lush green hill before us. Back then, our families didn't approve. We were young, so everyone thought it was just puppy love. Just the two of us getting out to be alone for a bit was our biggest wish back then. When the moonlight fell, we'd sneak out from two different directions. On the side of the small hill was an abandoned park, where he put up a swing. He'd hold me in his arms, chatting about everything under the sun. All romantic. Never a dull moment. I'm sorry. I heard William's voice go hoarse, but I didn't look back. Harper tugged at my hand and whispered, "Daddy's crying." I patted her shoulder and didn't say anything. "Mommy, can we play on that swing over there?" Seeing me nod, Harper skipped over happily and grabbed the rough ropes on both sides. I followed her. The footsteps behind me sped up too, and William reached out to pull me. "Evelyn, I'm sorry. I know what you want now." But when I looked forward, it was as if I saw that 17-year-old boy looking down, pushing the small swing, smiling at me. Don't forgive him. I looked back, and the school uniform had turned into a suit. I just said calmly, "Let's go back to the old house. Our documents are all there. Let's get the paperwork done ASAP." Forgiving him would be betraying myself. Harper had played enough. And seeing William and me standing there waiting for her, she trotted over and grabbed my hand. There were weeds on the path ahead, probably because no one had taken care of it for a long time. I was wearing a skirt, and my lower legs got scratched passing through the wheat field, leaving tiny cuts. William subconsciously reached out to block it for me, but within a few minutes, the path came to an end, and I hurried a few steps forward to open the door. His hand hung awkwardly in the air, and only when Harper held onto it did he seem to be bailed out. "Daddy, Mommy doesn't need protection anymore." Harper tilted her face up to look at him, her gaze determined. "Because next time she comes here, Mommy will know to wear long pants." Mommy is super amazing. She won't make the same mistake twice. William froze for a moment. Suddenly he squatted down, burying his whole face. His back was shaking, but there was no sound at all. The marriage certificate and household register from our hometown were all kept safe and sound. This old house is still renovated just like it was when we got married. The residents over all these years haven't changed the layout either. Starting a business was hard back then. So William and I grit our teeth and sold the house back in the countryside. Then we took all our savings into the city, becoming two tiny specks of dust in the army of Beijing drifters. When we first started hustling, life was very hard. In the leaky basement, a thin layer of ice would form on the floor in winter. The windows didn't close tight, and snow would blow in with the wind. Even the ice crystals on the door were enough to make you shiver. We couldn't afford the heating bill, so we could only hug hot water bottles. The warmth from holding each other tight was enough to burn through the whole winter. Back then, it was the one and only. It was true love, and the greatest love. The hardest years were the years we loved the most. But luckily, our luck was pretty good. Soon enough, a small-scale company was set up. In the beginning, I managed the accounts, worked as a secretary, did reception, and also handled logistics. He said having me there put his mind at ease, that I was the best supportive wife. But later on, I don't know when, things changed. William really made something of himself. The company grew bigger and bigger, and the money earned became more and more. He swapped our small home for a big house, and also bought back the house in our countryside hometown. Evelyn, that's where we started. I couldn't bear to let it go. I smiled and nodded. The very year the company went public, I got pregnant. Back then, the cold in the basement had taken a toll on my body. Even the doctor said I probably wouldn't have kids again. But against all odds, I got pregnant. Everyone was happy. He picked me up and spun me around, tears welling in his eyes. But it was also because I was pregnant that I gradually faded out of the company. And he hired Sophia. Was it money that made him have a change of heart? I don't know. I only know that this is as far as we can go. Watching him sign the divorce papers, I put them away, then took Harper by the hand and left. Harper was very good. As she left, she even reached out her little hands to give William a hug. Speaking like a little adult. Dad, I'm relieved knowing someone is picking you up. He turned his head, and Sophia was standing there, holding her belly. William subconsciously looked for Evelyn's expression, trying to find a trace of jealousy and displeasure. But there was none. She just picked up Harper and walked off into the distance without looking back. William paid no attention to Sophia. He looked at the triumphant Sophia expressionlessly and tossed her a card. You know the pin. Get rid of the baby. I won't acknowledge it. Don't think about using the child to force me. You know my methods. William opened the car door, got in, and drove toward his old home in the countryside again without hesitation. He remembered that road. The youngest, most passionate love had all happened here. He recalled the first time he embraced Evelyn on this road, holding her soft, warm body in his arms. He also remembered their first kiss, stealing a moment on the swing under the moonlight. When Harper smiled on the swing today, what he saw in his eyes was Evelyn from years ago, wearing her school uniform. The Evelyn with her hair tied in two low ponytails. The Evelyn carrying a school bag, smiling gently at him. He seemed to still see the young boy kneeling on one knee, holding her and professing his love. He seemed to realize what she wanted now. Love is important. Fidelity is just as important. At that time, William was adamant, believing no one could ever separate them. Love can overcome all hardships. William will always stand on Evelyn's side. If I, William, betray Evelyn, may I be struck by lightning, cast into the animal realm, and never be reincarnated. Trembling, William opened the dusty iron lock and stood before that wall covered in envelopes. Back then, the high school was under semi-militarized management, and as a boarding school, cell phones weren't allowed. If the school found even a hint of puppy love, they would announce it to the entire student body. But back then the two of them were stuck like glue, all turning into short pages and long love. He opened that letter written to Evelyn at his comingafage ceremony. The handwriting was flowing, exactly the look of an unruly youth. I love the free-spirited you, and I want to protect your freedom forever. William loves Evelyn. The whole world knows. before the college entrance exam. To fulfill his promise, he used the school broadcasting station to confess to Chin Yen. Evelyn, please always remember, I will forever stand by your side unconditionally. Later, he was publicly criticized by the whole school and had to make a self-reflection. He didn't remember the teacher's warning at all, only Evelyn's face in the crowd, crying and laughing. Back then, Evelyn said she liked Chinese-style weddings, and that if she got married, it absolutely had to be a grand affair, phoenix crown and crimson robes, 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows, and a 10-mile red dowry procession. So in the letter he wrote to the Evelyn of 10 years later during his coming-of-age ceremony, he also wrote, "If I didn't marry you, I'd hope that person could give you 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows, 10 miles of red dowry, and a phoenix crown and rosy robes." He didn't manage to do it, but Evelyn married him anyway. William suddenly remembered their wedding night, when he held his bride and promised that once he bought a house in the city, he would definitely make it up to Evelyn with a grand, classical wedding. He didn't manage to do it. Tears ran wild, almost eroding his vision. He sat amidst the letters, flipping through past memories one by one, and finally felt regret. How arrogant he used to be, saying he would never do anything he'd regret in this life. He owned his actions. Once he did something, he would never regret it. But he broke his word. Losing Evelyn was the thing he regretted the very most. Had made many mistakes, but betraying Evelyn was the biggest one, because she was just as proud. She would never turn back. He turned back. He went back down that road, but this time, she wasn't at the end of the road anymore. The year William and I divorced, Harper was 4 years old. She was eager to learn and already knew a lot of words. She was also very smart and remembered a lot of life lessons. So when she was in kindergarten, I decided to put starting my business on hold for a while. A girl's vision needs to explore a wider world. I took Harper to many places. Hearing the call of the distant mountains, we headed for Western Sichuan and Gannan. We've been drifting from place to place all the way, but she is even braver than me. Passing by a lake, I saw it echoing the main peak in the distance, with the snow mountain reflected on the water's surface. She ran towards me smiling, showing her flushed cheeks, pointing at the reflection in the lake, smiling 10,000 times happier than she ever was in kindergarten. "Mommy, mommy, the mountain is standing over there. And here is another mountain. When I was 18, I wanted to go to Tibet. William said money was tight, and he'd bring me here when we were financially free. When I was 22, I wanted to go to Tibet. William said he needed to prepare the betrothal gift, and we'd wait until our honeymoon to go. When I was 26, I wanted to go to Tibet. William said the company was on the rise and told me to be a bit more sensible. Would it be nice to wait until we could take the kid and go to Tibet as a family of 3? Not good. The year I turned 28, I finally came to Tibet with my daughter. I held Harper's hand and walked to the foot of the Potala Palace, watching the herds of cattle foraging freely everywhere, and the colorful prayer flags dancing in the wind. She held the camera and clumsily took pictures of me. We went to see the Mani piles stacked high with good wishes, and explored the babbling streams formed by melting snow, crossing over one high mountain after another, walking towards a dream in the clouds. We scattered lungta into the sky against the wind. At 28, I lost the love of my youth, but I still haven't lost the courage to find myself. It felt like the moment I saw the herdsman's sincere, pure eyes, I suddenly stopped resenting. I've forgiven myself. William. Love is looking at the vast mountains and rivers with someone on the same frequency. Love is finding yourself in each other's company, not getting lost in each other's absence. As the golden script of the great bright mantra engraved on the prayer wheel shimmered in the light, I put my palms together. Evelyn. Tashi Delek. Sophia's child was lost in the end, but it wasn't voluntary. A woman who suddenly rushed up slammed hard into her nodiat, showing lower abdomen. Her eyes were fierce, teeth clenched, looking as if she wanted to tear her to pieces. "You little bitch. You stole my husband. I'll kill you." The onlookers' unified condemnation was overwhelming. The nasty words and disgusted looks almost drowned her. You wouldn't think a nice girl like that would do such a despicable thing. She has to come lick the plate after someone else has finished eating. She's already pregnant. Won't she try to force her way into the position? Who knows how many men have played her till she's rotten? Where does she get the nerve? Morals are going down the drain. There are more and more shameless people. Nowadays, even a pregnant mistress dares to strut around like this. Sophia looked in disbelief at the strange woman in front of her acting like a lunatic, almost suspecting that Evelyn had sent her. But as she flailed wildly and kept hammering her own lower abdomen, Sophia watched closely, and the hatred in her eyes didn't look fake. Just as her consciousness was fading, she vaguely heard someone stop that woman, squat down in front of her, and apologize to her. My sister was cheated on back then. The mistress came to the house with a child to force her out, and my nephew got hurt hats when she lost her mind. Ever since then, she can't stand the sight of pregnant women. We'll take you to the hospital right away, and it'll cover all the compensation. The woman's younger brother called an ambulance. When he helped her up and saw her face, he suddenly gave a cold smile. I wondered who it was. Turns out my sister was practically doing God's work. Only then did Sophia recognize him. He was a former close friend of William. After William took her to a few social events, people noticed the illicit relationship between her and William. His old friends didn't really associate with him anymore. It's just a worthless life anyway. Being born was the real sin. A worthless life. Her chest felt tight, stifled with pent-up frustration. Since ancient times, mistresses have been filthy. Everyone spits on them. But is this all her fault? Her self and dignity vanished while she wagged her tail begging for pity. Feeling the blood flowing endlessly from below, she suddenly thought of Evelyn. William had warned her repeatedly, telling her to stay away from Evelyn. She didn't listen. William had always been disciplined, and he rarely had female companions. That year, she only succeeded because she got him drunk and drugged him, and wore a dress in the same style as Evelyn's to get William to stay. He stayed for one night, and the remaining 2 years just followed. She thought she was special, but she wasn't. As the cold hospital instruments scraped inside her abdomen, she clenched her hands in pain. Yet the figure that unexpectedly flashed through her mind was Evelyn. She remembered Evelyn's peaceful and indifferent smile when she went to confront her. No matter how she provoked her, Evelyn would just blandly say, "Okay," kicked out by William. The money she had was snatched away by her gambling-addicted brother. Just as she was ready to start over, she was accidentally injured and ended up in the hospital. When Sophia woke up again, she heard the doctor speak apologetically. "Miss Sophia, I am very sorry to tell you that you will never be able to have children again. In addition, if your AIDS isn't brought under control, it might." Her ears buzzed. She couldn't hear any of the following words clearly. Sophia only knew. Her karma, it seems, has really come. William looked forward, watching the backs of the mother and daughter, his right hand curling up fiercely. Seeing Harper happily fling herself into the mass arms, he paused, his hands bracing against the sides of the steering wheel without warning, accidentally hitting the horn, letting out a sharp sound. But neither of them looked back. Thomas placed Harper on his shoulders, running with big strides. Even though the noise of the crowd was chaotic, he could still hear his daughter's happy laughter. Like a young swallow, he had to admit, the mother and daughter were both happier than when they were by his side. William pressed his lower abdomen, almost numbly enduring the waves of dull pain. In the second year after losing Evelyn, he realized that he had also lost his health and good fortune. He had been living a muddled life. But then one day he suddenly discovered deep blue spreading patches under his chest, and blooming red flowers growing in his private parts. That day, he was restlessly watching Evelyn's travel vlog at a bidding meeting, when his vision suddenly went black and he fainted. When he woke up again, his former friend was looking at him with a gaze full of disgust and pity. But being an old friend after all, the man's eyes still reddened, even though his mouth was speaking as if delivering divine justice. "You just spend the rest of your fucking days repenting for your sins. Fuck." He held back the pain and picked up the medical record. But his first reaction was actually relief. William checked out of the hospital, went to the notary office first, and after writing his will, drove toward Evelyn's home. But he lost the courage to go see them. Evelyn hadn't yet relented and agreed to be with Thomas. But William thought it wouldn't be long. Evelyn had always been cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. She didn't refuse Thomas' company, which was a tacit permission for him to be there. Harper liked him very much, though. and would even secretly call him Daddy Mang when Evelyn wasn't around. His heart ached with a sour pain. The love and happiness that were once within reach. Now he had to spy on carefully like a thief. Just before he finally lost consciousness, William seemed to see himself in a school uniform, tilting his head and asking him, "Are you the William from 10 years later? Did you marry Evelyn?" "I haven't confessed yet, but I believe she'll say yes to me." William mumbled for a long time, and only after a good while did he grit his teeth and nod. "Don't let her down. You have to be good to her, always and forever. You know." The boy shouldered his backpack, clutching the love letter written to Evelyn in his hand, leaving him only a view of his back. "Of course I won't betray Evelyn. Anyone who fails a sincere heart deserves 10,000 arrows through the heart." What the taste of 10,000 arrows through the heart was like, William thought. He knew now.